Tonight we're gonna go viral. Are you ready? You won't believe what I've got for you today. It's something that happened in my own family. Nobody will believe me. Poltergeist goes wild. Now it all started when I was just 12 years old. I lived at home with my mom, dad, and older sister. My dad had recently been transferred to work in another city, so we moved into a new house and everything seemed fine at first. Then one night I heard chains dragging metal moans. Then out of the corner of my eye I saw a dark shadow dragging itself closer and closer. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. I just watched as the specter approached. It towered over me and then suddenly I was flung across the room. I landed hard on the floor, but I survived unscathed. When my mom and dad came running, I told them about the shadow, but they just shook their heads and said that there was nothing here, that it was all in my head. For months I kept hearing dragging chains and distant moans. Then one day I heard a blood-curdling scream in the middle of the night. When I told my parents, they decided to move us to another house. Now this happened quite a few times during my childhood. We moved from one haunted house to the next, and each time it was the same. First I'd hear the dragging chains and feel the presence of a dark shadow. Then things would begin to fly around the room. Sometimes I'd be pushed or pulled by an invisible force. And then the scratching and growling would start. It always began with the scratching and growling. And then it would escalate to the point where I'd see a shadowy figure, and then I'd get hurt. Once it even broke my arm. But my parents never believed me when I told them about the ghost. So let's fast forward a bit. I grew up and eventually became a therapist. I worked with children who had experienced trauma and I helped them cope with anxiety and fear. But I still hadn't overcome my own fears from childhood. I was still terrified of the dark. One day I was working with a young boy who had experienced something traumatic. He was having a hard time controlling his emotions. So I asked him to draw a picture of how he was feeling. He drew a dark shadow with sharp teeth and claws. Underneath it he wrote, "It comes in the dark and takes your breath." I stared at the drawing. Then I looked up at the boy. "What's its name?" I asked. "They call him 𝗗𝗏𝗏𝗏," the boy replied. That's when it hit me. All of the terrifying creatures that I'd drawn as a child all had one thing in common. They all made a scratching sound. 𝗗𝗏𝗏𝗏, the monster under my bed, the creature in the closet, the evil spirit that haunted my childhood, they were all the same. I realized that I wasn't actually afraid of ghosts. I was afraid of the things that went bump in the night. I was afraid of what lurked in the shadows. And it was until I confronted this paralyzing fear that I was able to truly help my patients overcome their own childhood traumas. I realized that the scariest monsters aren't the ones that go bump in the night. They're the ones that live in our minds. What about you? Are you afraid of the dark? Do you have a monster under your bed? You won't believe what I've got for you tomorrow. It's something that will change your life forever. Stay tuned. See you then. Bye.